It's time for the Onyx News. Extraterrestrials, time anomalies, dimensions, remote viewing, UFOs, UAPs, and USOs, ghostly encounters, abductions, Bigfoot, and more. Your end of the week news source for everything unexplained. Here is your host for the Onyx News Podcast, Margie K.
Hello and welcome to Onyx News. I'm your host, Margie K, and we are here Friday evening like we always are, or we usually are. Tonight I have a very special show for you, so buckle up. Starseeds, I'm glad you're here tonight because you're going to want to hear this. Kosta Macreas is the founder of the People's Disclosure Movement and the letstalk.com community. He was born in Fort Wayne, Indiana on July 2nd, 1953, and graduated from Indiana University with a degree in computer science and a minor in mathematics. Kosta subsequently enjoyed a 3-decade-long career in the Silicon Valley, California, as a software consultant to many high-technology companies. In 2006, at the foot of Mount Shasta, Kosta became a contactee, an experiencer, and himself via 2 dramatic up-close and personal encounters with star people. In 2010, he further communicated with star people, and that continues to today. And that is their subject for this evening. Welcome to the program, Kosta.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here, Margie.
Oh, I'm so glad you could join me this evening because this is a big subject and it's a topic on a lot of people's minds. We talk about star people, and I just want to try to make things clear for people so they can understand what that means. So, but let's go to your first encounter at the foot of Mount Shasta. If you would tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I want to give you just a tiny bit of context, which is important to that that first encounter. I'd always been interested as a child in space in so many different ways, and a little bit in UFOs when I picked up a book. But I had a kind of a normal career until 2006 when that first encounter happened. And it really changed my life, and that's why we're talking today. I was at the foot of Mount Shasta with a group of, I'd say about 40 people, and we were learning CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which are human-initiated interactive encounters, not the passive kind like with Close Encounters 1 through 4, so that we could make connection. And it was really a good week of learning a lot of new things and making the contact in different ways with star beings. For me, the most dramatic one came one night after our group had disbanded, and we'd had a really good evening at the foot of Mount Shasta up here in Northern California. We'd been seeing craft in the skies, learning how to identify what are the real things versus, man-made or other natural phenomenon. And so it had been a really good evening, but most people headed back to their hotels from the CE5 site where we were, and about 10 of us still hung around in this clearing that's surrounded by forest, again at the foot of Mount Shasta, talking about what we'd seen that night. Someone tugged on my sleeve and pointed to the edge of the clearing, maybe I'd say about 6, 7, 8 feet away. And there I saw right near the ground, like materializing out of thin air, a sphere, maybe about 3 feet in diameter. It was small. And I rubbed my eyes and looked at the moon that was setting and wondering, is this a trick of the light on my eyes? Because I'm very skeptical about stuff, and I want to rule out, what might be explainable versus what might be, paranormal and even more exciting. In this case, it was a sphere floating above the ground, and it materialized. Like I said, shouldn't have been there. It was gray, opaque. I couldn't look into it, and it came on really not dramatically. There was no noise, no vibration, sound, smell, anything else. Just came on, and there were 10 of us there, um, standing around for half an hour, watching it floating above the ground there. Now, one of the people there who was telepathic with the beings inside of this, because this was in fact what we believe is part of a larger starcraft that had not fully materialized. So what all we saw was this sphere. And one of the gentlemen in our group there said that he got a telepathic message from the beings inside the craft, and what they told him was that they are scientists who had come to the Earth to study the human energy systems. You know,
Oh,
scientific expedition. And being a scientist myself, a computer scientist, kind of a left brain guy, I immediately that made sense to me. You know, these are explorers, the way that we humans have explored our worlds and our world, and someday we'll explore others. So, like I said, it was very non-dramatic. Hey, a bunch of scientists, and I thought to myself, great, we're somebody's PhD thesis here. We're the lab experiment. We're the lab rats, right? And that's
yeah.
okay. No harm done. You know, nice to meet you, right? Um, Standing next to me was a new friend I had made there. I'll call her Gloria, not her real name. A very psychic, very grounded woman, but really talented psychically. And I turned to talk to her as we were all staring at this little sphere after getting this message about them being scientists. But I noticed that she wasn't responding to me. She was standing very straight, you know, as a board with her
Oh,
arms out like this, if I can, just out at angles, not moving. And she did that for about half an hour, not moving. Uh,
oh,
I knew
wow.
I knew something was up, but I wasn't sure what it was, and so I stayed close to her just in case she showed any signs of distress. Well, after about half an hour, she did kind of get a little bit wobbly standing there and moved her arms. And I asked her, "Are you okay? Do you know where you are? What's your name?" You know, doing a little check there. And she said to me, "You know, I'm okay, Costa. I'm a little bit disoriented, but I'm fine otherwise." So I asked, "Okay, what happened? You've been standing there for half an hour like this, not moving. I think only Navy SEALs are trained to do that, or Delta Force, or whatever, you know, but you pulled that off. What was going on?" And she says to me that she was approached telepathically by the beings, or one of the beings, from that sphere that we saw, 3 foot diameter. And the being asked her again telepathically. None of us knew this was going on because she's having this private conversation. The being asked her, "May I merge with you so that I can study your aura, your energy system, your bodies there?" And she, to her credit, said, "Yes, you may." Now, I know a lot of people that at that point, when the voice in their head says, "May I merge with you?" even very
Yeah.
nicely, politely, would run away from our little gathering there with their hair on fire. Maybe I would have been one of those.
Hmm.
But she was very cool and collected. And so she negotiated with the being and said, "You know, you may do that, but I have 3 conditions." And the being asked her, "What are they?" And she said, "Number one, I stay conscious during our merging operation. I don't want to be unaware of my surroundings." And the being agreed to that. And her second demand was, when I tell you to unmerge, to go, you know, we're done, you go, right? No questions asked. And the being agreed to that. And her third demand, and she didn't say this to be funny or anything. She said, "No messing with my genital equipment. I don't want any any probing anywhere. You know, just stay away." And the
Hmm.
being agreed to that. So during that half hour that she was standing there not moving is the time when apparently the experiment, the merging, was taking place. And then at the time when she got a little bit wobbly is when she had told the being, you know, "I'm done. You can go now." So there she is telling me all that story. And I look over and I see the sphere is starting to dissolve. In other words, they're leaving now. It's dematerializing just
Right.
as undramatically as it came. It just faded like a slow, like in a movie without any drama in the background. And it was gone. So what do you do with an experience like that? What I had just seen with my eyes and then heard from her, and I trusted her word. Well, this violated all the physics that I knew about and had been taught. That just should not have happened. And
Hmm.
yet, was I going to believe my lying eyes? Of course I was. And I was
Plus
in a
all
company
those
of,
other people
yeah, plus nine
that
other
are
people,
witnesses.
and we were all stone sober and just gobsmacked at this. And I decided, this is my first experience, and I know that we've been doing this CE5 meditation and visualization. So, what did I expect? Somebody responded. Somebody heard our invitation, showed up, did some experimentation, and left. What am I going to do with that? Some people bury experiences like that because they can't talk to anybody about them, and that's understandable. Uh, People may not understand your spouse, your working associates, your family, et cetera, et cetera. So you keep it inside. In my case, uh, I wanted to tell the world I'm just a normal person, and having done this simple CE5 type meditation for interactive contact and getting this happening to me, I figured anybody can do this. I need to talk about it, and that's what changed my life. That was uh, something I couldn't walk away from. And so I decided to go online and create a community telling people what had happened to me and inviting them to learn the CE5 and to form a community and share our stories. That was 2006, 19 years later, with the People's Disclosure Movement, where there's more than a million of us around this whole topic. Clearly, I haven't left it, and it's still exciting to me. And there's a lot more news about the People's Disclosure Movement I can tell, but that was the very
Mm.
beginning of it. And it was also in 2010. I can tell you a little bit more as we go on how that movement grew even more from my one little experience there. Now, I had two other experiences during that week, which just solidified the contact. But I don't know if we have enough time to
Oh,
go to those. So uh, this
well,
was
yeah, I
dramatic.
would like to hear that, but I want to ask you this: do you think that you were encouraged, or maybe the idea was given to you by the Star people to start this movement?
Oh, that goes into what happened in 2010. That's an
Okay,
emphatic yes. Yes. Um,
let's go to 2010 then.
yeah.
Let's
After
find
four
out.
years of continuing to try CE5 in various groups, I brought my wife along, who had not been a skeptic, but had been just really busy with her businesses, and it was very encouraging that I was pursuing, this kind of contact, but was too distracted. And this is another story. We can talk about that later, maybe in another time. But in short, a few beings, 4 or 5 Arcturians, as they identified themselves, appeared in our bedroom, literally in front of her. To her, she's
Oh,
clairvoyant and clairaudient, but this was to her physical sight, and they communicated with her and had waves of love enveloping her. So she decided to come along. Therefore, in 2010, when through her we were able to contact star people, they came through in a channeling session because I had asked them, what can I do to help you all with getting full open contact to happen on Earth? I know you're here. I know you have a big agenda. It's above my pay grade. I don't know what all of it is, but you've shown me in many ways that it's very benevolent, that it's very loving, the races that we've been contacting. So what can I do? And they had a very simple request. They said, create as many contact teams as possible in as many places as possible, as quickly as possible. And I
mhm.
said, I can do that. I was a social activist, a political activist in my youth in the 60s and 70s. So organizing people and teaching like that, and um, upscaling what I had been doing already for 4 years to meet their request was easy. So I started doing that. And by the way, I asked them, um, what's the point of us starting all these contact teams? And their reply was, well, based on human free will, as more humans reach out to us, that gives us more permission to appear literally in more cities, to show
Ah,
ourselves, where more people will see us. And that gives us more permission to appear in more places where more people will see us. You get the idea. This is an organic growth. They called it a virtuous circle that builds an organic growth on its own, because contactees like yourself and myself, Margie, and many others built this movement on our own, networks within networks within networks, so that it was really a real thing to us and very solid. And that was the beginning of the People's Disclosure Movement. And by the way, I asked them, well, okay, so maybe millions of people will see you and want to communicate more. What's the end point to all this? What's the purpose? And they said something that just excited me. They said that someday so many people will have seen them in the human mass consciousness and want to interact more with them, that a tipping point will be reached, after which there would be no stopping. No government and no institutional authority could ever again cover up their presence on and near the earth. That's what a tipping point is. They gave me an image of a snowball rolling downhill, and they said it cannot be stopped when we reach that tipping point and go past it.
Right.
I asked them, when will that be? Give me a number, give me a date. And they said it depends on human free will, and we can't reveal that even if we knew when that would be. Again, above my pay grade, but I had to try it, right? So fast forward to 2020, when I was in communication with them again, after almost 10 years of building this People's Disclosure Movement. And it wasn't just me, it was all these people, a very decentralized thing. There's no guru at the middle or in the center of it. It's all of us, the centers everywhere. So we had spent 10 years doing this. So in 2020, when I asked the question of the star people, by the way, when are we going to reach that tipping point? You talked about it 10 years ago. Are we close? And they said, oh, that happened in 2019, a year ago. We are in that point now where we're the snowball rolling downhill. They told me that our movement, all of us, the way we had grown it and reached the tipping point, had exceeded every expectation they had when they started and requested that we all do this. So they were overjoyed. They are overjoyed that we have done an end around governments. If anybody knows anything about disclosure in this UFO UAP field, you know that we're still waiting for big announcements from people that are genuine, from a government, from an authority. But the People's Disclosure Movement, which is why the Star People started it, was to do a sideways thing around it, because they knew that if we take our power back from the authorities and do our own contact, then it's going to happen a lot faster. And it did. We're still waiting for a disclosure announcement. I mean, there are good people working towards that, from governments or from a pope or somebody. But in the meanwhile, we achieved the People's Disclosure in 2019. And this has brought the day when they can be fully among us on Earth closer. It accelerated that. I don't know by how much. I don't make predictions. But I know that it helped, and they're very happy about it. And that's where we are right now. We're still making contact, and we have messages I can share with your audience, and so on. So I know that was a long answer, but thank you for staying with that.
Well, that the events of the last couple of days, with Obama's statement and then and Trump's statement, and then he says he wants everything revealed from our government agencies. So do you think that that's a big step towards disclosure?
I think what Obama did, and then kind of tried to self-pedal and walk back, but he knew what he was doing. He's a guy that can play 3D chess. I think that was deliberate to prepare people because of his stature and how highly he's thought of. I think that had an effect on. There are people who need an authority to tell them. And then there's people like you and me who've gone out there, grabbed our lawn chair, meditated, stuck with it, and then something happened. We don't need that authority. But I do understand that credibility among people in high places is something that a lot of people still value. So Obama doing that, I think, was a big deal and very deliberate. Trump saying what he's saying, I think, is I don't want to get into politics, but I think it's a deliberate distraction from the other things that are bothering his life right now, Epstein. However, what he did say is only part of the story. He can ask the Pentagon, maybe he can force them to reveal their files and all that. But the truth is, that's only part of the information. The real secrets, the real technologies are hidden in the corporations, in private corporations that have operated above the levels of government, which is why you
Right.
hear politicians, when they're told about 20 levels of secrecy above what they know, they're going, why didn't anybody tell me this? I'm a senator. I'm a US representative. I'm this, I'm that. Well, because as Eisenhower said when in his farewell speech, the military industrial complex took control, created a black budget and a lot of secret programs that have gone on outside of government. So my point
Hmm.
is, yes, if Trump can go ahead and maybe they'll reveal some stuff, you'll see more videos, more statements. But the truth is, if you want the reverse engineered technologies, if you want to know if you want the bodies and the craft that they've recovered and everything that these secret programs have created, you have to go to the corporations. And Trump didn't mention anything about that. He doesn't have any power over them. He cannot issue, he could try, which he has and failed at a lot of things, try an executive order and say, corporations out there, Martin Marietta, Northrop, I know you're out there, Lockheed, give up everything you've had for 80 years. We want it right now. And I'm going to hold my breath till my face turns blue till I get it.
Yeah. And
Ain't
it's
going to
above his
happen.
pay grade, so
Yeah, they're not going
it's
to
not going
do
to
that.
happen. Right.
So people like Danny
Yeah.
Sheen and Sarah Nelson at the New Paradigm Institute are working to get legislation through the U.S. Congress to
Mhm.
force through law the corporations to give it up. But I don't think Trump alone can do that. It would be nice if he could. It would do us all a
Right.
big favor. So, like I say, it's only half the story, but it will elevate the word disclosure. If he does follow through and start talking about all this, a lot of the public will learn about disclosure and they will come to people like us and say, you know, I thought you were crazy, right? But tell me more about these contacts you say you've been having. You know, I'm kind of willing to listen. My mind has been opened a little bit. So
Yeah.
there's something good that can come out of that, even if we don't get the full information from the corporations. That's my personal opinion. I don't have any special insider knowledge, but just from studying all this for the last 19 years and knowing people in this field like Danny Shee and Sarah Nelson at the NPI who are working at this, I'm putting some of these pieces together, and that's where my opinion comes from.
There's seems to be, at least in my experience, an awakening going on among people.
Yeah.
People who have just been going along steadily throughout their lives. Something fantastic happens, and they're like, "Oh, there's more to life than 3D." Okay. Have you noticed the same sort of trend?
I have, because I've been hearing lots of stories since 2006 when I first started forming my community, and then when the People's Disclosure movement took off, people who have been writing to me or contacting me on social media, and this may be true with you too, telling all kinds of encounters they've had and growth they've had, experiences that have opened them up. I have noticed in the last few years that there have been more sightings all over the world, just like
Yeah.
our friends said they would do. They would show up, and when they show up, they do have an effect on the human beings that see them, you know, an awakening of sorts. So yes, I have seen it. I know there are people out there who have counted and tabulated where the sightings are happening, put them into spreadsheets, and can produce numbers that actually do show that something's going on. It's speeding up, the volume's getting bigger,
Yeah.
and that's all to the good, I think.
I I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. So, what have your more recent experiences been about?
Recently, I have messages from the star people. I check in with them as I see things happening on the world stage, and I have, you know, questions about what does this mean or where's this headed.
Hmm.
Sometimes I just need encouragement, inspiration. I'm sure you know that when you look out on the world, it looks really crazy and really dangerous at times. So what I try to keep in mind is that there's a lot of good that is sprouting up from the grassroots as people are awakening. And so I ask the star people about that. You know, do you have any messages that would encourage us humans at a really critical time right now when we're at a very dangerous point where we can have a breakdown of our world, or at a point full of opportunity where we can have a breakthrough. And I'm on team breakthrough. I'm not naive, but I'm a really cautious optimist because I am in touch with a lot of people who are doing a lot of good in great numbers that you're not going to hear of on the legacy news, because they operate out of fear, with an
Right.
occasional story about a cat getting rescued out of a tree. Nice, nice. But it should be the other way around.
Hmm.
There's a lot of good going on, and I think we're headed toward a golden age. And I look to the star people sometimes like, give me some messages. And I'd like to just recite a few of the recent messages that you asked that we've been getting.
I tell you what, can you hold for just a minute? Because we're going to go on break. When we come back, we're going to hear your messages. We'll
Okay.
be right back right after this.
The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to Research a Haunted House can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or amazon.com. That's unexmedia.com or amazon.com. 2026 is off to a great start, and it's almost time. With many exciting predictions and the recent emphasis on a potential major planetary event occurring in April, it promises to be a super transformational month. And we couldn't be more excited to be in Hawaii during this shift to integrate new frequencies. Folks, this will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. April the 20th through the 24th, 2026. Join us in Kona, Hawaii for Journey to Truth's very first vacation conference retreat. Enjoy 9 presenters over 5 days with ocean adventures with dolphins and whales and sacred sites and so much more. Experience Hawaii like never before. You will enjoy 5 days on the Big Island, so don't wait. Start planning your trip today at journeytotruth.online. That's journeytotruth.online.
And we are back with Unex News. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and this evening we are speaking with Kosta Macreas about the star people. And before the break, you started to tell us something about your most recent contacts and the messages you're receiving.
Absolutely, and I would like to share them with your audience. Thank you for the opportunity.
Please do.
One of the things I asked them was, well, who are you? I've been talking to you for years, and it didn't really matter to me what labels there are, because what matters to me is the vibration of the message and how high it is, and that's what really is at the core of what's essential and true, not arbitrary labels or places of origin. But that's kind of fun sometimes. So I asked them, "Who are you?" And they said, "We are many races from many cosmic places. We have humanity's highest welfare in mind, and we ask you to trust us that we do. We are an association. Now, another word for association in my mind is a federation, an alliance. And there are people who do talk about galactic federations. There clearly are, in my mind,
Mhm.
many of them out there. There is a huge one that, or more, that are here to help the Earth. Some of the other messages they've sent to us, when you ask, well, why are they here? They say, and actually, I got this message directly, not through my usual contact who helps me. This message was, your planet is in peril, and we are here to help. We're here, we're clear, get used to it. I especially like that one.
Mm.
Also, keep your eyes and heart on us. Um, when I asked them, how do we stay sane in what it seems to us as an insane world? And their reply was, we have to imagine the positive future we want. Work with that.
Hmm.
We don't deny what we see in front of us, but our thoughts, our emotions create the reality that we want. So they kept insisting that we visualize the future we want, work for it, be active, and we find a tribe too of other people doing the same. And I know that sounds like a real cliche answer, but it's a simple answer that anybody can do and anybody can believe in, and it has its effect. So we visualize what we want, we act on it, we create it. That puts the power in our hands. And when we get it, we can pat ourselves on the back because, we humans, we're going to do that. We did that. We're going to get a golden
Hmm.
age if we work for it. Um, the other thing they said was to be prepared. I asked them about the Steven Spielberg movie coming up, Disclosure Day, uh,
Yes.
June 12th. There's already a lot of controversy around it, and how it plays out, I don't know. I read a little bit about the some of the plot, and of course, the trailer has been really dynamic and jarring to some, which is what Spielberg does because he's a master storyteller and he
Oh,
has
sure.
he has a global audience. I mean, that
Yeah.
trailer, whether you like it or not, I'm I looked at the numbers on YouTube. I think within 10 days had 30 million views. Who gets that? You know,
Spielberg gets that.
Spielberg, maybe James
He's,
Cameron, and then a few other that are up in that
yeah.
orbit, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I know that it's a big deal. So I asked my star friends, okay, regardless of how he treats this subject, and we hope that there's a positive message that comes out of it, because there is a car chase in there and things exploding, and you go, man, where's this going to go? But if you remember E.T. the movie too, there were dark parts of that which showed the ability of powers that wanted to do bad things to ET, right, doing their thing. So there were some tense moments in there. There was a chase and all that, but it turned out to be a really lovely message that was uplifting at the end. So without
Mhm.
knowing the whole plot of this movie, I'm hoping that Disclosure Day coming out June 12th will steer into the positive ending thing. And so I asked my star friends, what is the message you want to give to audiences about that movie? And their simple answer, I've already given it, but I'll repeat it, which is, we're here, we're clear, get used to it. They said there would be two phases of reaction to that movie. The first phase, it sounded like would be kind of maybe instilling anger in people, because there will be a lot of people that may learn about this topic for the first time. And if it's been hidden from them for 80 years, the anger would be justified. Like, why weren't we told? Who covered it up? Why did they do it? This is not right. So there may be some reaction in that way. But what I was told, and what's important for what I'm doing with this mission, and I hope for your viewers too, is the second phase of reaction to that movie, which they said would be a deeper and wider recognition of them, the fact that they're here, they're clear, get used to it.
Mhm.
So I asked, well, what do we do about that? If minds are going to get opened up, let's say, and let's hope in a positive way, to the presence of our star friends, our star families. What do we do about that as minds open up? And it was very clear what they said, which was tell your experiences. Those of us who are experiencers, contactees, call it what you will, it's important that when people come to you whose mind has been open with questions, you don't have to sit there and debate them and say, well, here's proof. Well, go watch this video, go listen to this person, buy this book. That's all fine and well. That's worked. But in this particular case, the advice was tell our experiences. So the people who thought we were crazy might come back and have questions after this movie and say, well, tell me a little bit more. What is it that happened to you again? So by telling our personal story, we have the credibility. They can either walk away again, those who come to us, or they can ask more questions and pursue it even deeper. But we have the power at that point. So on my website, etletstalk.com, we want to collect the stories of people like ourselves who have had experiences, have had encounters, and who want to share them with the world, because this movie may give a lot of people who've held this inside more permission to come out of this ET closet and tell what happened to them. And we're all about transparency and getting more information rather than the cover up that we've had for 80 years. So we're trying to help break that open. And again, regardless of how this movie treats the subject, it's still going to open minds. And we have the opportunity in this phase 2 of a reaction to it to show our sympathy to people who come with our stories and share our knowledge of what happened to us. So that's an opportunity that's out there. I don't know how that'll play out, but I did ask the question, what can we do? And that was a very simple answer. Just tell your experiences and lend your ear to somebody who wants to talk at that point, and we'll see where that takes us.
I have heard that same thing from so many people that I've done readings for lately who have been on the fence about coming out as an ET experiencer and a contactee, and they're now ready. It seems that they're all ready now. It seems like we're at a tipping point. And I wonder what your thoughts are on Spielberg possibly being a contactee and having been influenced by extraterrestrials.
I've heard the same rumors that he has been that, and that he's been read into certain projects and knowledge. I don't have any special insider information about him to be able to answer that. But I will say, from the way he's treated the subject, he's getting information from somewhere. You look at what was it, the 10-part series 23 years ago, Taken, that was on TV. Oh my God, that was radical stuff for the time, except for those of us who were interested in this field already. But I think he was right about a lot of the things he did in that particular TV series. And then, of course, there's E.T. the Extraterrestrial. So I'm looking at the evidence, Close Encounters and all that. I'm looking at the evidence of what he's done. And it's clear to me somehow he's gotten information, whether it's been personal contact or whether he has friends on the inside of the black projects and who are part of the cover up. I don't know, or maybe all of the above. Yeah, that's a big I don't know, but just look at the evidence. He's onto something, and it came from somewhere.
It looks like it. It's kind of like Star Trek. This Star Trek, everything they had in Star Trek has now been invented and is being used. I mean, he knew something. Well, Roddenberry knew something.
Didn't they say that Gene Roddenberry was part of a group? There was a woman, I believe, who was channeling, was in contact, and he either visited the group or had a connection. Right, and so a lot of the Galactic Federation information came from that, and he turned it into Star Trek. And look what Star Trek spawned. I remember the very first show. I'm old enough. And how they say that every Thursday night when Star Trek would come on back in the day, then the original show, 1967, I think, they said that NASA would just freeze. All the engineers there would find excuses to turn on their TVs or bring them in so that they could tune in. That's the effect, the beginning of the effect that that had on all of us. And look where we are
Mhm.
now in terms of public awareness, in terms
Yeah.
of the activity of our friends.
Yeah. And like we were talking about earlier, more and more people are becoming aware, waking up. People who are mostly left brain are starting to see things. So that's a good thing, I think. My husband included among them. Years and years and years of him telling this stuff, and he's like, one day he called me up. He says, "I'm looking at a UFO."
Really?
So, oh
Really?
yeah, it was
Nice.
exciting.
How was it
Yeah.
like not a light in the sky, or was it
No, no, it was close. It was a
no.
silver cylindrical object with no wings or tail floating silently above him at the Lake of the Ozarks. He was at a
Wow.
fire investigator conference, and he calls me up about 10:30. He says, I'm looking at a UFO right now." He says, "I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm seeing it." But
I
yeah,
love
but
it.
that seems to be happening a lot.
And that's what's needed, because there are always in any movement people who are early adopters, who are the forward ones, trying to convince everyone to follow them, right? But when you hear about left brain types, and I'm not putting that down because
Yeah,
I'm primarily that until I had an experience myself.
yeah.
And then, like you say, you either stop believing your lying eyes, or you start thinking outside of the box and going, wait a minute, I've got to process this. Universe is a
Mhm.
little bit bigger than I thought, and so let me deal with it. I find that exciting. I don't know, how did he react after he saw that? I mean, he
Well,
believed
he
in
was
it.
incredulous. I mean, he spent days after he got home talking about it and just saying, "I can't believe I saw that, but I know I did." And he tried to even deny it for a while, and then he says, "No, I did see it." So, yeah, I think it's a gradual awakening process, but it seems that more people are waking up to the fact, and it takes a lot of time to get out to a lot of people what the process is, how contact is made, things that happen, like what you described with this ball of light suddenly appearing very slowly, and then with beings inside of it and having that contact. I mean, that's not something that people would normally think of. And yet, so many people are seeing balls of light and orbs and with creatures inside. Um,
Mm,
I've had quite a few reports of that type of thing. And let me tell you what my opinion is on that real quick, because I
I'd love to
remote
hear it.
viewed a couple of different cases, and what I saw was a mothership, a big ship,
Mm,
out not too far from the Earth, but they sent their consciousness and their astral bodies in this ball of light to the Earth, and they were able to physically be in one place, send their astral bodies out to another.
wow.
Does that make any sense to you?
Well, it does to me. I started studying extra dimensional things and spirituality and Eastern religions and meditation when I was in my teens. So I've had a lifetime of assimilating stories like that. And to this day, I know so many people who, I know one gentleman who leaves his body every night in his astral body, and his ET friends show up and guide him to different places. And he does that just as normally as you and I put our heads down and have a dream. So, and that's just one person I know. You and I, and those who are watching this, probably are or know other people that uh, accept the fact that this is a multidimensional universe and that we are multidimensional beings. So, if we can leave our astral bodies, why wouldn't the mothership and the beings there have the ability to do what you were just saying? I can't take it into a courtroom of evidence, but yet I know enough people that talk about incidents like that that I believe it. I believe you. I believe you said what happened to your husband. I may not know you really well, but there's so many thousands like you that I've talked to over the years.
Hmm.
It's more improbable that the thousands of people that you and I have contacted who don't know each other, who tell all these stories, it's more improbable that they're all getting together in some conspiracy, right? And communicating secretly to make things up, to fool the rest of us, than to believe that there is a wider universe than what we know, and that all these people are genuinely having multimodal and multidimensional experiences. And to
Hmm.
me, that's a lot more exciting rather than believing in the conspiracy that everybody's lying. And I'm not saying that there aren't people that do disinfo out there and that will lie. There are human beings that do all kinds of that stuff in a lot of places. But I'm saying in the overwhelming everyday world, when you hear these stories, I find it exciting because it shows us that in our personal case, for example, death is not the end of of the being, right? It's a dropping of the
Right.
physical body when you accept the other dimensions. And to me, that's inspiring. That's hopeful. When you miss someone who's dropped their body, and we all have experienced that, there's this kind of feeling like, well, we will meet again, right? Uh,
Right.
Whatever religion you believe in, there is some continuity. So it's more fun to believe in the bigger thing and all these stories than to just shut down and say, nope, there's only one thing. It's this body. When you're done, it's all in the brain and it's over. And nothing weird has happened. If
Yeah.
it's not the laws of physics as we know them, then it could not have happened at all. And that's just been proven wrong over and over in my experience.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at people who have experienced past lives and remember their past lives, and
Yeah,
children who start talking about, oh, hey, I was a pilot, you know, in Vietnam, and give all the details and the names, and all. A little kid couldn't possibly know that stuff. Yeah, there's something to it. Absolutely. How can people join the People's Disclosure Movement?
oh, it's easy. The website is etletstalk.com, ETLETSTALK, one word, .com. There's no membership. It's open to the public. And just sign up there and you'll get on my email list. And I send out regular newsletters about the activities of the People's Disclosure Movement. Uh, there's webinars and other people that come in and advertise what they're doing. So it's a good hub for people who are interested in this topic. Uh, since 2010, we've been doing monthly what I call global CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind,
Mm,
meditations around the world. And in fact, those monthly recurring contact events with all our teams that have been building around the world, that's what in a regular way helped create the tipping point that the Star People talked about happened in 2019, because we all went out and started daily, weekly, every month, making our own contact, either informally or as part of the People's Disclosure Movement.
mhm,
So if people join the website there, they'll get a monthly announcement from me about the next event where we all join, all our teams, for a day, for 24-hour period, anytime during the day, wherever you are, can just join through our hearts, through our minds, through our visualization with everyone else who's part of this wonderful community, and present a group field. And this is the key thing. There's what we can do individually, which is important, but when we get together in a group, and
mhm.
synergize, we present this group field every month of openness, of goodwill, of love, high vibration, to the benevolent star people, friends and family that are out there, and they respond. I get reports that they show up in people's living rooms, through electronic means as
Mm.
flashes in the sky. They have a lot of creative ways to contact us, and that's important because people are comfortable with different things and they know what our believability index is, and they come to us in ways that we can accept. So that's what will happen if people just come and join us at etletstalk.com and the People's Disclosure Movement. You'll become part of a community, and I'll put you in touch with others. So yeah, so y'all come. I appreciate it. It's all about the
Fantastic.
movement. You're helping the generations coming after. This is not a money-making operation or anything. They're not a guru operation. This is us. We're crowdsourcing um, full open contact and bringing it closer. The more that we get together as humans and show that we want to create a peaceful world, the sooner the star people will find a stabler world in which to introduce themselves. They're doing that anyway because we can't wait till everything's perfect on Earth. Yeah, forget that.
Yeah.
But at least if there's enough of us, we've reached the tipping point that we're putting it out there like there's enough of us ready, we can handle this. We want to go to a better age. We want to share, you want you to share your healing technologies, your free energy with us, et cetera, et cetera. So there's enough of us who are ready. In fact, in 2015 and 2016, there was a Dutch firm that does research on the internet, and they had a project where they went out to, I think, 20,000 people in different countries, in different economic and political systems, so that the people that they polled in their study were kind of a snapshot of humanity, not just crystal gazers in the San Francisco Bay Area, but people from other walks of life and cultures and all that.
Mhm.
They did this study about extraterrestrial life, and they asked a lot of questions of these people. I looked at this study, and two of the questions that they asked popped out at me. The first one was, um, do you believe that extraterrestrial life exists out there, intelligent life, not as a little microbe under a rock somewhere on a planet in a far off star system, but intelligent life? And I think that 40% of their respondents at that time, and again, that was almost 10 years ago, I'm sure it's grown by then, but 40% at that time of their respondents said, yes, we do believe it. And of those 40%, they asked a follow-up question, which was, okay, you believe that intelligent life exists. Should we contact them? In other words, what's your fear
Right.
factor? That's the subtext. Should we contact, interact? And 60% of those said yes. So I know these are a bunch of numbers I'm throwing around, but I'm a numbers guy. I love this. I took the results of their study, all these percentages, and I just, for a lark, applied those percentages to the population of the Earth as a whole so that I could maybe get a snapshot of what the whole population of the Earth feels based on the extrapolation from this study group of 20,000 people in, I think, 24 countries that the study had focused on. So I did this extrapolation. I came up with 1.3 billion. That's billion with a B.
Uh,
Human beings on this earth can say yes to the two questions that I just talked about. There's
uh-huh.
intelligent life, we should communicate. 1.3 billion. That doesn't mean all of them are doing CE5 like we are. Probably half of them are wondering where their next meal is coming from, or are in a war zone, or are really busy with their lives. But the point is that the minds are there, they're open enough to that message, so that what's incumbent upon the rest of us is to reach them, because they're kind of the low hanging fruit. 1.3 billion people are with us. That's a sizable chunk of humanity that is
Indeed.
ready. And we just need to be able to reach them and say, and that's what people like Spielberg are doing. Again, I don't know how he's going to treat his movie, but some of those people will look at that and go, oh, this universe is pretty big. And I guess they're here, they're clear, get used to it.
I think Spielberg is probably reaching more people with that movie than any of our government representatives would ever, talking about it and talk about it on the news. The movie will get more response. Uh, I want to thank you so much for being with me tonight. Time went by really fast. It was a
Yeah.
pleasure speaking with you and hearing about your experiences. Just fantastic. And everybody go to sign up with the People's Disclosure Movement. And we will see you here again next week. Thank you, Costa.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Margie.